The desert never forgave weakness. It tested men with heat, women with loneliness, and love with silence. Ethan Cole had lived on that land for nearly 40 years, long enough to know that promises were rarer than rain. His ranch sat alone at the edge of the Red Valley, where the wind cut like a blade and the night stretched endlessly. He was a man shaped by labor, broad shoulders, scarred hands, and eyes that had seen too much leaving and not enough staying. He never expected her. Clara arrived one evening just before sunset, riding in the back of a dust-coated wagon like someone who had already run out of places to go. She stepped down slowly, her boots touching the earth as if asking permission. Her dress was plain, her hands trembling as she clutched a small cloth bag, the sum of her life. "I was told you needed help," she said softly. Ethan studied her the way a rancher studies a skittish horse, not to dominate, but to understand how close he could stand without sending her running. "I didn't ask for anyone," he replied. "I know," she said. "But I didn't ask for where I came from either." Something in her voice stopped him. Not weakness, honesty. He gave her work, then shelter, then silence. Days passed. Clara learned the rhythm of the ranch, dawn chores, water hauling, meals eaten with few words. At night, she stayed in the small spare room near the kitchen, always locking her door, always keeping her distance. But loneliness has a sound, and Ethan heard it in her quiet breathing through the thin cabin walls. One stormy night, thunder cracked open the sky, and Clara froze at the kitchen table, her hands shaking around a chipped mug. "I don't like storms," she whispered. Ethan didn't ask why. He simply sat across from her. "You're safe here," he said. Her eyes filled, not with tears, but with something deeper, relief. Weeks later, the distance between them grew thin enough to feel dangerous. Their hands brushed while passing a plate. Their eyes lingered too long by the fire. The cabin grew warmer, smaller, heavier with unspoken things. And then came the night everything changed. The wind howled outside as the fire crackled low. Clara stood near the hearth, twisting her fingers together, her breath shallow. "Ethan," her voice barely held together. He turned. "What is it?" She swallowed. "I don't know how to say this." He didn't move closer. He didn't rush her. "You don't have to say anything you don't want to." Her lips trembled. "I've never trusted anyone like this before." The room fell quiet. "I'm afraid," she admitted. "But I'm more afraid of staying afraid forever." Ethan's chest tightened. He had wanted her. God, he had wanted her. But want was easy. Care was harder. He stepped closer, slow, deliberate, giving her time to step back. "Easy," he said gently. "Nothing happens unless you want it to." Her voice shook. "This is my first time choosing." Ethan rested his forehead against hers, his voice a whisper meant only for her. "Then we go, slow, and if you say stop, we stop. I promise." Her breath caught, not with fear but with courage being born. And when he finally drew her into his arms, it wasn't hunger that led him. It was respect. The fire dimmed, the storm softened, and whatever happened next belonged only to them, unrushed, unseen, and built on trust rather than force. Before the night carried them away, Ethan whispered one last thing, something he had never said to anyone before. "You're safe with me, always." Morning came without mercy. The desert never eased into daylight. It arrived sharp and blinding, pouring gold across the valley as if nothing fragile had happened the night before. Ethan was already awake, standing outside the cabin with a tin cup of black coffee, watching the horizon like a man waiting for judgment. Behind him, the cabin was quiet. Too quiet. He hadn't slept. Not really. He'd lain awake listening to Clara's, breathing from the other side of the thin wall, every rise and fall reminding him that something sacred had shifted between them. The night had not been about passion alone. It had been about trust, and trust carried weight. Inside, Clara sat on the edge of the bed, wrapped in a blanket that smelled faintly of cedar and smoke. Her hair fell loose over her shoulders, her face pale but calm. She pressed her fingers together, grounding herself. She didn't regret it. That surprised her. What frightened her wasn't what had happened, but what it meant. Because choosing once made it impossible. To pretend she could go back to being invisible. When she finally stepped into the kitchen, Ethan turned at the sound of the door. Their eyes met, and for a moment neither spoke. The air between them held the echo of something intimate, something new. "You sleep all right?" he asked, careful, respectful. She nodded. "Better than I expected." He exhaled, a tension easing from his shoulders. "Breakfast is ready. If you want." She wanted. Not just the food, but the normalcy. The chance to sit at the same table and not feel like the world had cracked open beneath her feet. They ate quietly, but it wasn't the same silence as before. This one was gentler, shared. Then the sound came. Hooves. Fast, too fast. Ethan was on his feet instantly, hand drifting toward the rifle mounted by the door. Clara stiffened, fear flashing across her face. "Stay here," he said. The rider didn't bother slowing. Dust billowed as the horse skidded to a stop outside the cabin. The man who dismounted was tall, sharp-eyed, wearing a coat too fine for honest work. Ethan knew him. Silas Boone, a land broker, a collector of debts, a man who smelled weakness the way wolves smelled blood. "Well, I'll be damned," Silas said, smiling without warmth. "Didn't expect to find company out here." His gaze slid past Ethan, landing on Clara in the doorway. Something ugly flickered in his eyes. Ethan stepped forward, blocking the view. "State your business." Silas chuckled. "Straight to it, then. I like that. You're late on your payments, Cole. Railroad's coming through this valley, and folks are eager to sell. I'm here to make sure you don't fall behind." "I told you, I'm not selling." Silas leaned closer, lowering his voice. "You don't have much choice. And now," he glanced toward the cabin again, "now you've got someone else to worry about." Clara felt the threat even if she didn't understand it fully. After Silas rode away, the air felt poisoned. "Who was that?" she asked quietly. "Trouble," Ethan replied. "The kind that doesn't knock twice." That afternoon, Ethan rode out to check the south fence, leaving Clara alone with thoughts she didn't want. She cleaned. She cooked. She tried to steady herself, but fear crept in through the cracks. By dusk, Ethan still hadn't returned. The wind shifted. The sky darkened. And then another sound. Not hooves, footsteps. Clara's heart slammed against her ribs. She reached for the heavy skillet on the counter as the door creaked open. Silas Boone stepped inside. "You shouldn't be here," she said, voice trembling but firm. He smiled. "I think I should." He talked too much. About the land. About Ethan's debts. About how lonely places like this swallowed women whole. "You deserve better," he said softly. "Protection, security." She backed away. "Get out!" His smile vanished. That was when the door exploded inward. Ethan stood there, eyes blazing, rifle raised. "Leave," he said, voice like iron. Silas raised his hand slowly. "Easy now. Just having a conversation." "You step on my land again," Ethan said, "and there won't be another conversation." Silas left, but not before whispering something Clara would never forget. "Nothing stays hidden out here forever." That night, Clara sat shaking by the fire. "I don't want to be the reason you lose everything," she said. Ethan knelt in front of her, taking her hands. Steady, warm, real. "You're not the reason," he said. "You're the reason I fight." Tears finally came. Outside, the desert listened and waited.